Hello, it is time to do the video lecture for what we would have covered in class had it not started snowing. And that's my backyard. And you can see well, I think you can see it's snowing right now. And everything has snow on it. And my driveway looks like something I don't want to try to drive out of. So I'm very grateful that they canceled class for, tomorrow. I think that was a smart decision. Um, and yes, I'm going to be distracted, like me looking at it on occasion. Anyway, if you're in the political science class, I've already made that video, so I'm still a bit keyed up. And I made a video for another class, like another college in between, trying to, oops. So I wish we were in class for this one because I show videos and they're songs and I have fun with it. And this way I make sure people actually have to hear them. And it sucks that this one has to be online, but it is what it is. So we're going to work on going over chapter 4. I highly suggest paying attention to it, listening to it, and I really suggest paying attention to the songs, as tempting as it will be to skip past them. I really recommend not. Um, yeah. So without further ado, let's get to that sharing screen. Oops. Optimize sound, optimize here. Okay, I clicked all the buttons. All righty. So we are now going to do a tour of the cell. Yeah, I just get past these things. Introduction to the cell, because we've been building up to it. The light microscope is what most people think of when you think of a microscope. It's just the light that, shines to make it easier to look. This is how you can look at living cells. We then have things to look at much smaller things like the scanning electron microscope or the transmission electron microscope. Scanning electron microscope is my favorite because, of course, I have a favorite. So, light microscopes and then electron microscopes. Notice I say my favorite. Why is it my favorite? Well, because it's one I used and it's so cool. So, scanning electron microscope in grad school, I took scanning electron microscopy. And this is an image, well, these are images that I took myself of my sample in the big fancy machine. This is what's known as a fry. It is a baby fish. I've talked before, the fish I worked with, the Cryptolevius marmoratus, we just called them Kmar, or you can say the mangrove killifish. This is one of them. And you have to process it. And the whole process to put them in, nothing living can go in an electron microscope because you have to do this whole crazy process that involves a pressure that might explode and dusting it in gold. No joke, gold. And then you put it inside the machine and you're using a computer screen to look at it. And it's literally photographing or looking at the electrons. Because if you remember, we talked about how the electrons are going all around. That's how this is working. So, whoa, I wanted this. Okay, we are going to do a laser pointer. Oh, wait, no, I don't want that. That's not the right thing. This is the right thing. Haha. So, laser pointer. This is the itty bitty fish, and it was teeny tiny. So I did two different things with this one. First, this fin right here, I zoomed in here to here. So this right here is the tip of that. So if you see this little bump here, that's this little bump there. That is probably where the gold dusted a little thicker. But that shows you how close you can get. This was the cooler part. This was inside its mouth. When I say the scanning electron microscope is just cool, it is. So there you go. Let me turn that off. There we go. Kerbam. All right. So in the 1800s, studying cells led to what's known as cell theory. The cell theory, ooh, let me backtrack a tiny bit. I don't remember if we covered this thoroughly earlier in class. We should have, but I can't remember for sure if we did. Theory in science is different than theory out there, like non-science. You will hear people say things all the time like, well, in theory, a chocolate cake is a healthy breakfast because it contains eggs and flour and milk. No. In science, a theory means that it has been tested and tested and tested and tested and tested and tested, and they keep coming back to the same thing. So a theory means it is something that they have looked at, examined, tested, repeated so many times that it is super close to fact. So cell theory literally means they had looked at this so many times, it's pretty much common knowledge that this is so. And that is that all living things are composed of cells, and all cells come from other cells. They don't just poof, come out of nowhere. Not going to worry about this part. Paramecium, just showing you different microscope things. We were supposed to, I think we were supposed to do the microscope lab this week. We will make up the lab next week. We'll like do 2 labs in a day or something if we need to. Oh yeah, I actually know exactly how we can do it, so never mind. Anyway, so we have different size range of cells and related objects on what you need in order to see it. So you can see for the unaided eye, clearly humans, you can see humans. You can see all the way down to, note the human egg. Yes, humans have eggs, but not like chickens have eggs. It's a little bit different. For us, it's all internal, but they can harvest your eggs. That's how, you have egg donors and stuff. Then you have your light microscope, like what we will use in our lab, where you can see things from like frog eggs down to like mitochondria and stuff. But you need the electron microscope to get the really small bacteria, viruses, ribosomes, proteins, things like that. So it's just different things. We talked previously about the plasma membrane being made up of the phospholipid bilayer. I drew it on the board and we discussed it. The reason it's done that way is so then the proteins can actually go through. This is math. I think it's fun. Most people I know don't like it, so don't worry about it. This is showing you what I was talking about. Here we have an image of the phospholipid bilayer. You see the various proteins embedded in order to transfer stuff. Remember that the outside, both outsides, I should say, are the hydrophilic heads, and the tails are on the inside. And those are the hydrophilic heads, hydrophobic tails. So the tails are on the inside because they are afraid of water. So hydrophobic tails. Hydrophilic heads because they like the water. We're going to look at different types of proteins in just a moment. Not really worried about too much of that. Showing you a typical rod-shaped bacterium. We have the picture, and then we've got the electron micrograph to show you what it actually looks like. I'm not really too worried about most of this right now. Now, your cells have membrane-enclosed organelles. Organelle is kind of like a tiny organ. So your cell, imagine the cell as like its own body. And it has all these teeny tiny organs in there in order to make things work. Like we have a heart and kidneys and liver and that kind of thing. Our cells have very specific organelles in order to do stuff that they need. There's a lot of stuff written here. Most of this is going to be covered in the videos that are coming up. So I'm going to be like kind of scooching past them and talking them later. This is one of those, oh my gosh, pictures. This is the one that goes with your textbook. This is an animal cell. The cell quiz that I have on Moodle for you is the image I will use for the test. So I highly recommend the cell quiz. But this shows you all the different parts, and we're going to be learning about them all in just a moment. This is a plant cell. The main difference between the animal cell and the plant cell. Number one, cell wall. A plant cell has a cell wall, animal cell does not. Also, do you see this weird green thing there? It looks almost like a jelly bean full of discs. Animal cell does not have it. Plant cell does. That is the chloroplast. This is where photosynthesis takes place. And then the last thing that the animal cell does not have, but the plant cell does, is that big bubble, the central vacuole. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. But that's there to control like how much water and whatnot is in there. So animal cell has all these things. Plant cell has all those things plus the central vacuole, the chloroplast, and the cell wall. All right, videos. I hope you're ready for this.
Cells, the building blocks of life. Cells, the building blocks of life. They're in your pet and in your knees, in your toes and on the trees. Cells are in your families. Cells. Most cells have a nucleus, and it runs the show. It's in the center of the cell and contains a genetic code. The mitochondria are the power plants of the cell. Vacuoles store food and water, they're useful just as well. Cells, the building blocks of life. Cells, the building blocks of life. They're in your pet and in your knees, in your toes and all the trees. Cells are in your families. Cells. Ribosomes are working hard, making proteins one by one. Golgi bodies pack them up, ship them off for fun. The endoplasmic reticulum carries proteins carefully. The lysosomes are janitors, clean the cell for free. Cells, the building blocks of life. Cells, the building blocks of life. They're in your pet and in your knees, in your toes and all the trees. Cells are in your families. Cells. Cytoplasm's a gel-like stuff that the cell parts are floating in. The cell membrane says what goes out and what comes back in. Plant cells have a thick cell wall to protect the parts within. Chloroplasts make all the food when photosynthesis begins. Cells, the building blocks of life. Cells, the building blocks of life. They're in your pet and in your knees, in your toes and all the trees. Cells are in your families. Cells. Cells are in your families. Cells.
Catchy, I know. And no, that's not it. We're going to go a little bit deeper. This one, goodness. Hope you're ready.
Today's the day we're gonna learn about the cell. If I teach it okay, you'll know it very well. So listen up, sixth graders, no room left for haters. Let's talk about the building blocks of life, cells that make us.
Cells, they're made of organelles. Try to pull it fast when the cytoplasm gels. The nucleus takes over, controlling everything. The party don't stop till the membrane box is seen. Inside the vacuole, we can float around for hours, running around with chloroplasts, loving sunlight showers. Cells, they're made of organelles.
First things first, there's two different types. Animal and plant cells that make up all life. The little things that make up microscopic cells. The main structures, yeah, we call them organelles. Now let's break it down and get some information. How do cells work? It's a crazy combination.
Cells, they're made of organelles. Try to pull it fast when the cytoplasm gels. The nucleus takes over, controlling everything. The party don't stop till the membrane box is seen. Inside the vacuole, we can float around for hours, running around with chloroplasts, loving sunlight showers. Cells, they're made of organelles.
The cell membrane is a border patrol who can cross over. The membrane lets them know the gooey stuff inside is called the cytoplasm. It holds the organelles. Don't worry, plasm has them. In the middle of the cell, you find the big brain. The nucleus surrounded by nuclear membrane. Don't forget the vacuole is filled up with water. It's a basic need for life. When there's
back keeps getting hotter. Cells, they're made of organelles. Try to pull a fast one, the cytoplasm gels. The nucleus takes over, controlling everything. The party don't stop till the membrane box is seen. Inside the vacuole, we can float around for hours, running around with chloroplasts, loving sunlight showers. Cells, they're made of organelles.
The mitochondria is something every cell needs, breaking down the food and releasing energy. There's a place inside the cell where chemicals are stored. The squiggly googly bodies releasing even more.
Yo, hanging in the cell is endoplasmic reticulum, synthesizing enzymes for respiration. And if you still think that this rap is whack, remember ribosomes making proteins getting jacked.
Cells, they're made of organelles. Try to pull a fast one, the cytoplasm gels. The nucleus takes over, controlling everything. The party don't stop till the membrane box is seen. Inside the vacuole, we can float around for hours, running around with chloroplasts, loving sunlight showers. Cells, they're made of organelles.
Looking at the plant cell, weird and green. 2 more parts is all it takes, you see. Cell wall knows what's up when it comes to keeping structure. Strong with cellulose, the cell can't get much tougher. CHLORO. Plus, these little green machines are having a blast. Photosynthesize and filled with chlorophyll. They hit the cell club, running up a high bill.
Cells, they're made of organelles. Try to pull a fast one, the cytoplasm gels. The nucleus takes over, controlling everything. The party don't stop till the membrane box is seen. Inside the vacuole, we can float around for hours, running around with chloroplasts, loving sunlight showers. Cells, they're made of organelles.
Legit. Cells, they're made of organelles. Don't forget that one. Sorry, not sorry.
Cells are made up of tiny organelles. For example, mitochondria, which can replicate themselves. There's a nucleus that acts just like a brain, telling genetics to act each and every way. There's a membrane in every single cell, bacteria to which have small flagellae. Cells are made up of tiny organelles, like the endoreticulum which moves materials. The cytoplasm is the fluid inside the membrane, where the site of many reactions. You can find ribosomes on the rough ER. Where are the chloroplasts? I'll tell you where they are. In green plants and algae. You know there's lysosomes, which digest and recycle. Cells are made up of tiny organelles. So thank very much, Sidon, for what your theory tells. You concluded that plants are made of cells. During osmosis, cells are bound to swell. The cytoplasm is the fluid inside the membrane, near the site of many reactions. You can find ribosomes on the rough ER. Where are the chloroplasts? I'll tell you where they are. In the green plants and organelles. And we know there's lysosomes, which digest and recycle.
Yeah, that song might forever be ruined for you. Like legit, wherever I am, I will be singing this version and not the real one. But it did teach you things because hopefully after listening to it, you know what the lysosome is. Lysosome, digest, and recycle. See? Now, I have in the past have had students who complain to me that, they went to college, they're in college, they're not children, they want more serious. So this video is embedded in case you wish to watch it. I'm not doing it here, but I'm giving you an idea. This is the serious student.
The term biotechnology refers to the use of living organisms to modify human health.
Yeah, it's very informative. It's a good one for you to watch. So not my thing. But if you download the PowerPoint in the folder for my PowerPoints. This is in there. You can watch it. All right. We have just covered all of these parts in those songs. So I'm going to do just a quick recap as we go through it. All right. Nucleus, that's the center. That's like the brain. That's the main part. So that is where you've got the cell's DNA. We talked previously, quickly and briefly, that the DNA will translate to the RNA. Then the RNA goes down to the proteins. And so that's what this is talking about. And where it says subunits of ribosomes are a kind of protein. All right. And that's what all this info here is right there. Ribosomes, ribosomal RNA and proteins. There you go. Synthesize the proteins according to the directions from the DNA. We will go more in depth in that in a later chapter. Endomembrane system, endoplasmic reticulum. We just say ER for that. It's so much easier. But the endomembrane system has organelles that interact in synthesis, distribution, storage, and export of molecules. So the ER, like I just said, endoplasmic reticulum, we have smooth ER and rough ER. The smooth ER is making lipids and processes toxins. Lipids are fats and oils. Oils tend to be slick, smooth. That's the way I do it. Rough ER. Oh, I always want to make the joke about ribbed for her pleasure kind of thing, but rough ER bumps. It's got the ribosome, so it's all bumpy. And that's what rough ER. So the rough ER is making the ribosomes. It's sending those suckers along. So smooth ER, lipids, rough ER, ribosomes. Golgi apparatus. Funky looking things. It's at the end of the ER. Golgi apparatus, just call it UPS. Its entire job is to pack things up and ship them out. That's what they do. And this is just showing you a picture where it's at the very end. Lysosomes, again, digest and recycle. And so what happens is if something is not usable, something is messed up, faulty, it sits there and breaks it down. And so it breaks it into parts, recycles it if it's got parts that can be used. If it does not have parts that can be used, then it just digests it. It just slurps it in, makes it go away. So this is showing you a type. So the food vacuole comes into the cell, the digestive enzymes go over there and munch, 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 digest. Here we have vesicle that has damaged mitochondria. So this is something that's not useful. Lysosome goes in there, munch, munch, digests it up, takes whatever it can. That's it. Now, why is all this important? Well, we're all made of cells, but I like to tell you about this particular disorder because it is what happens when a lysosome does not work properly. When you're talking about cellular things, a lot of times it's very easy to just be like, because, you know, it's so tiny, who really thinks about it? I like to bring more real life stuff in there. So here we talk about this particular thing. You're about to get more on it. Yeah, I'm going to wait for the next slide before I tell you the name. So what happens here is if the lysosomes are there to digest and recycle, if they don't work, that means something is not getting broken down. And so it's just going to build and build and build and build. And so this is about Tay-Sachs disease, which is when a particular type of lysosome does not work. So Tay-Sachs disease is a mutation that alters the lysosomal enzyme that breaks down the gangliosides. And so when the gangliosides cannot get broken down, they just start piling up on top of each other. It is terminal. These children will not survive. Here it says affected children usually die by age 5. Sometimes it's sooner, sometimes it's a little later. It is not possible for them to live to adulthood. Not possible. So what happens here is the lysosome is not breaking down this very particular lipid, which then builds on top of itself in the brain. So at first the baby looks completely normal. It's like everything's fine. But then as it keeps piling it up, it makes it where certain areas in the brain can no longer work, and different things start to shut down. Eventually, the baby becomes blind, deaf, and they can't even swallow because there's all this stuff just piled up on the brain. The kid with Tay-Sachs ends up with cherry red spots in their eyes, and it tends to be particularly high among people of Eastern European and Ashkenazi Jewish descent. It is a genetic condition, so when we cover genetics, you'll see how it all plays out, but basically both parents have to be a carrier. So you can be a carrier of this genetic disorder and not actually have the disease. And so if two people are both carriers, then every time they have a baby, there's a 25% chance this baby will be born with Tay-Sachs. No known cure right now. Maybe one day they'll figure out a way to help repair broken lysosome stuff, but at the moment, there is nothing. All right, vacuoles. Yeah, no, I don't think any of the songs actually mention the vacuoles. Just big area, different variety of functions. Don't worry. Okay, this one I wanted to point out the picture. So let me grab my little laser pointer. So we've got the nucleus. What comes off the nucleus is the smooth ER. The smooth ER, remember, lipids, smooth, like a slide. And then that goes to the rough ER. Rough ER has the ribosomes. Then we have our transport vesicle. The vesicle is like, let's take it somewhere. And then we've got UPS who picks it up. This is the Golgi apparatus. So the Golgi apparatus picks it up, takes in the package, and it decides what's going to happen, and then it ships it out. So it either ships it over here because it's like, nope, don't need it, and the lysosome munches it up, or it kicks it out. But the nucleus is the brain, smooth ER, lipids, rough ER, ribosomes, vesicle, transport, and then Golgi apparatus is UPS. So pack it up, ship it out. We're just scooching on because we're covering some more than others. Energy converting organelles, that's the mitochondria. I am willing to bet everybody remembers mitochondria, it's the powerhouse of the cell, but you probably don't remember why the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Well, it's because it's the one that gives you the energy. Literally, that's what they mean by powerhouse, is the one that's giving you the energy. The other cool part about the mitochondria is listed here under the number 2, where it contains the mitochondrial DNA. Your mitochondrial DNA is a little bit different than your actual DNA. And I think we come to it later in this presentation where they talk about the endosymbiosis theory, where that shows how stuff evolved along the way. Chloroplasts. I already mentioned this earlier. That's for the plant cell. That's where we do photosynthesizing. And so that's just a picture of it. We cover this more when we cover photosynthesis next week. Next week. This is what I was talking about, the endosymbiont theory. Mitochondria and chloroplasts were formerly small prokaryotes that began living within larger cells. And so that just shows our whole evolutionary line, which is pretty cool. I don't worry too much about this one. Knowing there's a cytoskeleton, yeah. This is all for like structure and holding things in place, that kind of stuff. On the cell quiz, you will be pointing to the microfilaments and the microtubules. And knowing that those are part of the cytoskeleton, that's cool. I heard something and I don't know what it was. I think, oh, it's a bird. Huh, at least it wasn't a squirrel, right? Anyway, I just realized I forgot to mention this. Cyte, C-Y-T, means cell. So throughout biology and science, when you see CYT, just know that means a cell. And so cytoskeleton literally means the cell's skeleton. So the cell's structure. So that's one way to remember it. Not going to worry about that. Would have quizzed you in class, but not doing it now. What keeps smacking? Or is that somebody doing something out there? I have no idea. You can't even hear it, I'm sure. It's very distracting. I want them to stop, stop, stop. Okay. Feel free to read this. You probably already did. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to keep on scooching along because, again, I can't do everything. I'm just facilitating parts. All of this is in the PowerPoint online for you. Okay, here we go. Neighboring cells tend to attach to each other, interact, communicate, whatnot, with very particular junctions. This is one of those few times in science where the words, the names are exactly what they sound like. Tight junction, literally tight. Anchoring junctions, it's anchored in. Gap junction, guess what? There's a little gap. There you go. And so this is just showing you. So the tight junctions, nice and tight, anchoring, there's literally anchors in there and gaps, little gap. It's honestly that simple sometimes. I love it when it's that simple. Okay, so I already told you earlier also that a plant cell has a cell wall, animal cell does not. Not really worried about too much of that. We will be covering it later. Eukaryotic cell structures, eukaryote, covered this previously. EU means true. So this has a true nucleus. We are eukaryotes, so we have eukaryotic cells. These can be grouped based on the functions. Is it genetic control? Does it manufacture, distribute, or break down material? Is it energy processing, or is it structural support? So number one, genetic control, that's going to be your nucleus. Number two, the manufacturing, distribution, blah, blah, blah. That is the endoplasmic reticulum, the endo system, the smooth, rough ER, and the Golgi apparatus. I'm realizing I don't have my water near me. Oops. 3, energy processing, mitochondria, powerhouse of the cell, baby. And then 4, the structural support and stuff. That's the cytoskeleton stuff. So there you go. Handy little table. If you download the PowerPoint, if you right click on this, you can save this as an image. So if you really want to master this, you can just walk around with that. That's why it's there. And that is it. This is here because we need to work on this. Part of what you are supposed to learn this term is the difference for the metric measurement. Should everybody learn the metric system? Yes. God, yes. It is so much easier and makes way more sense than what we're taught. You literally just move the decimal. That's all you do. The imperial system, which is what we use here in the States, doesn't make much sense. But anyway, this is here because, yeah, you're going to have a question about this on your test, just so you know. That's it for the PowerPoint. I want to give you a heads up about what's coming. So I have to look real quick because I don't have everything memorized and I'm freezing out here. Oh my gosh, my fingers are frozen. Okay, so yeah, this week is your exam. And so the quiz closes Thursday night at 10 p.m. The extra quiz closes Thursday night at 10 p.m. Your exam opens midnight Thursday. So when Wednesday turns into Thursday, the exam is open. The exam is open until Sunday night at 10 p.m. And you get one chance. It is timed. As soon as you open the exam, the timer starts. It does not pause. So make sure you're ready to take the test at that time. I need to give you a in-class assignment because normally we would have done that in class, but we're doing video instead because snow. So let's see your in-class assignment. I should have it pertaining to something we covered. Let's see. Okay. Tell me some of things like how you can remember the different cell organelles, you know, like mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, or Golgi apparatus, it's like UPS, it packages up and ships it out. nucleus, it's the brain, that kind of thing. Tell me stuff like that, how you're going to be able to remember the cell, that kind of thing. And I don't know, tell me what you think about microscopes, something. Just make it kind of entertaining. I just need something. I don't want to put too much on you because you're about to take a test and I want you to be ready for the test. So yeah, I think that's it. And if you find another cell song that you think would be cool for me to add for future people, let me know. Anyway, that's it. So peace out. Stay